I say basically an entrepreneur is a full-time problem solver. That's what you do, right? Every single day, you're solving problems.
If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
You're in the
So
wrong
basically,
room.
yeah, he said you always surrounded yourself with people that were way smarter than him, knew more than him.
There's about $25 billion changing hands every year in the U.S.
Wow.
Just in the U.S. So $25 billion of angel investing happening in the U.S. every single year. So this is
Mhm.
happening all around you, right? You don't even know
Yeah.
it because you're not tapped into that network.
All right, welcome everybody to the Lays and Grays episode of Heighten Your Sixth Sense with Sean Green. I got Mr. Abdul Golden here. He's originally from Detroit, by way, but lives in Dallas, and I've spent, I guess, a good portion of his time in West Africa. So how you
Yes,
doing? How
sir.
you doing, Mr. Abdul?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
That's good. All right, so just tell the audience a little bit about you. You're a venture capitalist, the founder on a mission to make tech startups investing accessible to everyone, especially underrepresented communities. He's the force behind initiatives like Joe Angels, and he's helped build startups that collectively have generated over 700 million in revenue. So again, I'm excited to sit in front of you and and just blessed that you want to be a part of How You 66 family and come on the show and tell the community about your mission and your story and and just get us elevated, get us on the level of the big revenue and making big moves.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. So yeah, I could tell a little bit about myself. So, I've been around for a while, as you can tell by the little gray hair here. But I started off my career in technology. I'm a trained software engineer, and so I worked my way up from being an engineer to being like a leader in the tech space. Company
Mhm.
wise, leading large organizations, leading large tech organizations. Um, Venture into entrepreneurship a little bit, started a couple of businesses, started a couple of businesses. And so now I consider myself to be a venture capitalist. I invest in startup companies for a living. I like to think that I'm good at it. I think all of my professional experience over the years, from being, an engineer to leading large teams of software developers to leading large organizations to also running my own businesses and growing those businesses from scratch, from nothing to a little something. And so I think all that experience put me in a good position to be able to talk to up and coming companies, to talk to entrepreneurs about what they're doing, about how they're approaching what they're doing, how they can kind of even improve what they're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
That's what I try to bring to the table, and so that's what I do as a venture capitalist. I invest in startup companies, but more than just investing in startup companies
Yeah.
monetarily, financially, I also invest in them strategically, right? So we
Gotcha.
do a lot of hands-on work with founders, just kind of helping them understand how to operate, how to run the business,
Mhm.
because sometimes people don't realize, man, having a great idea and even building a great product is a very different set of skills than running and growing a business, right?
Yeah.
Those are two different set of skills. But if it's your business, you got to know how to do both, right?
It's always gonna grow.
Or at minimum, surround yourself with
Mhm.
people that know how to do both, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
uh, yeah, and so I spend a lot of time, not just investing in startups, but also coaching, mentoring entrepreneurs in terms of, some best practices when it comes to growing their businesses.
It's awesome. You have like a very extensive background where you worked in software. You had your own companies, so you have a lot of knowledge and a lot to bring to the table. So you got somebody with a great idea, it's a great concept, but they never really led teams and never really had a business and built something from ground zero and built it to where it's it's on a grand scale, a national or international company. So just your expertise and all your background really helps the younger generation, and to get them to that next level where you've been in those rooms, you've been in those spaces, you've been in that the situation where you got to think through problems and different and basically figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I have, man. And that's what I tell people. That's what I tell entrepreneurs. The way I describe an entrepreneur, I say basically an entrepreneur is a full-time problem solver. That's what you do, right? Every single day you're solving problems. Some days the problems are big, massive,
Mhm.
scary, and some days the
Yeah.
problems are small, right?
Yeah.
Not a big deal, but you still got to take care of them. But every day there's some kind of problem that you're going to have to solve. And if it's your business, right,
Yeah.
you are the one responsible for make sure that it gets solved, right? You may not
Yeah.
be the one to solve it, but you need to make sure it gets solved, right?
Yeah.
That's why I tell entrepreneurs a lot of times. That's the way. That's how I characterize it. You're a full-time problem solver, and if you're not
Yeah.
ready to solve
I love
problems,
that.
if you're not ready to solve problems, then maybe entrepreneurship
Yeah.
is not for you.
Yeah. Because you gotta be ready on the fly to, like,
On the
this is the
fly.
problem. How we gonna fix it? Yeah.
Yep. How are we gonna
Yeah.
fix it? And like I said,
Hmm.
you may not be the one to fix it, but you
Hmm.
are the one that needs to make sure it gets fixed, right? So it depends on the situation. It depends on how big a company is. It depends on how many folks you got working for you. It depends on what the problem is and what area it is. If it's a technology problem and you're the head tech person, then more than likely
Yeah.
you're gonna solve that problem. But if it's a marketing problem and you're not the head marketing person, you may not be
Yeah.
the one that actually solved the problem, but you got to make sure
Yeah.
that your marketing people solve it.
Yeah. So the responsibility is always gonna be on you if
Yeah, yeah.
you're the
The
top of
the
the.
the accountability is
Yeah.
always on you, right? May
Yeah.
not always be the responsibility, but the
Yeah.
accountability is always on you.
Yeah, I love that full-time problem solver. Never heard it said like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was watching it was a podcast, and the guy he interviewed successful entrepreneurs and people that really done good in business. And one guy was like, you never be the if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So
Wrong
basically,
room.
yeah, he said you always surrounding yourself with people that were way smarter than him, knew more than him, because that's
Yep.
that's what's gonna help you expand and grow and
It helps
elevate.
you level up. It helps you level up. And not only
Hmm.
does it help you level up, it helps you see what other levels you can get to, right? You may not even be aware that those other levels exist, right? Until you see somebody on those levels. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
you got to see somebody, you got to know that level even exists before you can aspire to get there, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes that's what it takes.
Yeah, that is true. Cause you gotta think about, like, I think of, like, Michael Jordan and how great he was as a player and a person, and all some of the moves he did. You got all these years later, you got kids see his highlights and, like, man,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
want to recreate that.
right, right,
Because
right.
he made the whole world elevate their game.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
So.
exactly.
So, like, when it comes to, like, somebody that's, like, first starting out, like, what would be some, like, what are the first steps someone with no investing background can take, to evaluate, tech startup before investing?
Yeah, I can definitely answer that question. But before I answer that question, I want to talk about the differences between like a professional startup investor, like a venture capitalist, versus somebody who kind of does it in their spare time, so to speak, right? So, and then I'll answer that specific question.
I
So,
got you.
so like I said, I'm a venture capitalist. I make my living by investing in startup companies, right? That's what I do for a living.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it, and then venture capitalists, we don't use our own personal money to do this, right? We raise money from other investors,
Yeah.
pool that money together, and then I use that money to invest in startup companies, right? That's what a venture capitalist does.
Yeah.
An angel investor does, the angel investor also invests in startup companies, but they don't do it for a living, right? They got a day job
Hmm.
and they use their own personal money, right?
Yeah.
So, I could have a job working in construction, or I could be a doctor, or I could be a teacher, or whatever the case may be, whatever my 9 to 5 is. right? I take whatever money I earn from the 9 to 5, and I take some of that and I invest it in a startup company. That's an angel investor, right? So I think your question was, how can a person, identify a startup and know what's a good startup to invest in, right? So
Yeah.
that would be an angel investor, right? That is a
Mhm.
person, an
With no background.
individual,
Yep.
maybe no background. They don't do
Mhm.
this for a living, but just like they may dibble and dabble in stocks, right?
Yeah.
They may want to do
Exactly.
a little bit of this, right? So it's a few ways to do that, right? I'm going to start by one of the ways that's the easiest ways to do it, but
Mhm.
I don't like this way, right?
Okay.
I think it's a shortcut way to do it, but I think the bad parts about it outweighs the good parts about it. And so I would
Okay.
say if you're kind of a new angel investor trying to figure out what startups to invest in, what new company, and again, a startup is a new or young company, like a baby
Yeah.
company, right?
Yeah.
Baby
Exactly.
company just starting out. They may not even have a product yet. It may be somebody that's smart, creative, has an idea, but don't really have a product yet. Or it could be
Hmm.
somebody who, maybe has a product and just trying to get this business off the ground, right? Those are called
Hmm.
startup companies. Angel investors
Gotcha.
invest in startup companies, right? So how do you
Hmm.
find startup companies to invest in? One of the easiest ways to do it is maybe go to one of these investing platforms that are out there, like Start Engine or like
Okay.
Republic or whatever, and they have a shitload of startups you can look at, right? But I don't like those platforms. The startups are not that high quality. Of course,
Okay.
there may be a few gems in there, but you got to wade through thousands
Yeah. You
of
got to shuffle through.
yeah,
Yeah.
you got to wade through thousands of the bad ones to try to uncover a couple of the good ones, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to do this really well, the chances of you finding those good ones,
Yeah.
is going to be pretty slim, right?
It's kind of like trying to find a penny stock
It's like,
that's going to be.
yeah, the old fashioned notion, find a
Yeah.
needle in a
Yeah.
haystack, right? That's
Yeah.
what it's like. So it's easy
Hmm.
for you it's like a smorgasbord, like a buffet of startups to choose from,
Yeah.
but they're not, most of them are pretty low quality, generally speaking, right? And so I don't like that about that. And then a lot of times, what you get for what you invest is very minimal, right?
Yeah.
So the 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 terms of the deal benefits that platform and that
Okay.
company, not necessarily
Uh,
you as an investor,
I,
right? Those are the two main reasons why I don't like the platforms, right? But they're easy to
mm,
use, and that's how they suck
yeah.
people in. But you're getting really low quality stuff there.
Yeah.
The best way to find higher quality startups is to develop a relationship with a local accelerator in your area, an accelerator
Okay.
or incubator. An accelerator or incubator, they are organizations that help small businesses get started and get going, right? They're like
Yeah.
kind of like like almost like kind of training grounds for these new companies, right?
Yeah.
And so if you develop relationships with those accelerators or incubators, you have a direct connection to the startups that comes out of there, right?
Mhm.
That's one of the best ways to do it. That's one of the best
It's
ways
like
to
it's
do it.
networking for
Yeah, it's
startups.
networking.
Mm.
Exactly, it's networking for startups, right? And so that's one of the if you're not a professional, right, and you're doing this on the side, that's one of
Hmm.
the best ways to do it because it doesn't require a whole lot of time. It doesn't require a whole lot of effort. Really, all you got to do is find, you know, a local or regional incubator, reach out to
Yeah.
them, tell them that you're looking to invest in startups and ask them if they can kind of share some of the startups they have within the organization or pitch you on their list or whatever. Because these incubators are always looking for investors in the companies that they work with, right?
Yeah. Because they
They're
want more
always looking
money in
for
the pool. Yeah.
exactly. So they'd be happy to, you
Yeah.
know, they'd be happy that you reached out to them, right? Because they're looking for somebody to invest in these companies. That's the easiest way. It's the easiest way. And, you know, there's a good chance of finding better quality startups doing that.
So with the local ones, would their main focus only be local companies, or would it be their local group, but they kind of branch out all over?
It depends on the group, right? It
Okay.
depends on the organization. There are some local organizations that deal with companies all over the country, right? And a lot of the local ones, the smaller ones, just deal locally, right? So that's a good place to start, right? But there are also accelerators that are more regional and national, right? And so you can develop relationships with them as well, right? You can have relationships with multiple accelerators, so you have multiple
Okay.
sources of startups to choose from.
Mhm. Yeah, okay. So it's like you
You
said,
can you can choose
it's
local one.
levels to it.
There's
Yeah.
levels to it. You can choose a local one, right? And then you can also choose a regional one, and then you can also
Hmm.
choose a national one, and even an
Okay.
international one, right? So there's different levels
Yeah.
to it.
Okay. And so with these different accelerators, incubators, would it be like a membership fee, or you just kind of like they just always looking
No,
for to help people?
yeah. If
Yeah.
you are looking to invest in companies, they would be happy to talk to you, right?
Okay.
Because the startup companies they work with, they're always looking to kind of pair investors with the companies that they work with. So if you're
Okay.
if you make it clear that you're looking to invest in companies, yeah, you don't have to pay. You just get on their list, and then they communicate. They reach out to you when they have kind of new companies coming out of their
Yeah.
incubation.
So basically, like if you're new to it, you kind of like do a Google search or maybe word of mouth or just network and just do your research to figure out like how to contact these groups. But as you
Yeah,
probably get involved with them, you'll meet more people that's involved in it, and
exactly,
you can
exactly.
expand. Yeah.
That is exactly
Hmm.
right. Because this whole startup thing is a big it's a big network, right? And so once you start tapping into that network, right,
Yeah.
you get more opportunities to continue tapping into the network.
Yeah. And then as you build relationships with people, and then you network, and then that can lead to like some of the key deals that other people are not privy to.
Exactly.
Some of the Apples or
That's
the
exactly
Ubers
right.
of the world, some deals like that.
That's exactly
Which I
right.
think everybody's probably looking for. That
Yep.
that diamond in the rough. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly how it happens. That's how these deals happens, right? Because these are private deals. And so they're only communicated via a private network. And so you got to be tapped into that network.
Wow. This is great because I know like this is new to me, and I know when people hear this, like, okay, well, I didn't even know that was even an option.
It is. It is. That's the amazing part about it, right? So not only is it an option, there's about $25 billion changing hands every year in the US,
Wow.
just in the US. So $25 billion of angel investing happening in the US every single year. So this is
Mhm.
happening all around you, right? You don't even know
Yeah.
it because you're not tapped into that network.
So I guess I heard somebody say you're a sum of like the I guess the five people you
Five
with the
people,
most. Yeah.
right?
So like if you are really in a place like I'm tired of working, I want to find a positive way to get out of this. You can tap into an organization like this, and really you just don't know who you would meet,
Yep.
and
You don't know
that
who
could help you.
yeah, you don't know who you're gonna meet. You don't know what opportunities you're gonna come across, right? So, but if you're not there, right,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yep. But I think that they say, information is spread in crowds, but real money is made in the right rooms. Yeah.
exactly, exactly
Yeah.
right.
So how can like an everyday person like spot red flags or unrealistic hype in like early stage companies or startups?
Honestly, it takes practice, right? But you gotta have some fundamental principles to practice in the first place,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it all starts by using fundamentally sound approach to investing, right? And if you
Mhm.
use this kind of fundamentally sound approach to investing, you get better and better over time of understanding what those red flags are, right? You
Mhm.
just know it when you see it. Um,
Yeah.
I can give you like a couple of examples of red flags, right?
Okay.
I would say if you're kind of researching a startup to invest in, and you're having conversations with like the founder, which is something that you
Mhm.
can't do on these platforms, right? Another reason why I don't like the platforms,
No, you can't actually.
you can't
Okay.
develop relationships with those people, right? It's a
Yeah, that's
platform.
that's
Yeah.
not good.
And in this world, being able to have those relationships with those founders makes all the difference because that person who started that company or that team, that group of folks who started the company, you want to get to know them, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to get to know them. You want to be able to get a feel for the kind of people that they are, because when you're investing this early in companies, what really makes the most difference is the people leading that company. It's not the idea, it's not the product, it's the people. On those platforms, you never get to know the people, right?
You just
You
reading
you
a reading a
you exactly.
bio.
You never
Mhm.
even see the people, right? You never get to talk to
Yeah.
them. Sometimes they may have like investor meetings where it's like a big group call, but
Yeah.
you never get to really interact with that person, right? And that is the biggest thing about investing in startups. You want to be able to interact with that entrepreneur and get a
Yeah.
feel for their motivations, how they operate,
Hmm.
how mentally tough they are, how
Yeah.
emotionally tough they are. Because you got to be
Yeah.
tough and strong to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You don't get any of that from the platforms. You can't get any of that from the platforms.
Yeah.
So a red flag would be if you're in a process of getting to know this entrepreneur and maybe they're not really clear about
Hmm.
what they're trying to do or why they're trying to do it. Maybe they're not really getting along with their co-founder, right?
Oh yeah. That's
It's
not good.
subtle things like that that you look for, right? Because if those two co-founders ain't getting along, I don't care
Yeah, it
how
ain't gonna
good their
work.
business is, right? I don't care how smart they are. The shit ain't gonna work, right?
Yeah.
It's like a bad marriage, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna fall apart eventually, right? And so
Exactly.
those are some of the things that you look for. I mean, and so if you practice a kind of standard, like systematic approach for looking at startups, and then you just have your checklist of these red flags, and
Hmm.
after a while, you just know what they look like when you see them, right?
Yeah.
So it starts by having, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to
Hmm.
figure out what works. Then you just keep doing it. You just keep doing it. You keep doing it. You get better at it. You get better at it. And then it gets
Yeah.
easier and easier to see the more you do it.
Okay. So like it's just kind of like when you're training, you got to work out a
You got to
routine.
build the muscle.
Over time you have a basic routine and you stick to that, but then as you learn, get stronger, you may add different moves, you may add, a different variation of it. So
Right.
you just gotta build upon your knowledge and your understanding and trusting in yourself too, to
Yeah.
to kind of to see it.
But it
Yeah.
but it starts with that foundation, right? So it starts with
Yep.
having a solid foundation of how do you approach this? How do you do it, right? You got to have a
Yep.
systematic way for doing it. And then
Yep.
you just continue following that system. Like you said, right? It's like having a solid workout program, right? And you start that workout program, and then you may not be able to make it through the whole program your first day, right? But
Yep.
you keep at it, and then the second time and third time you get better and better and better, and then after a while it's easy for you, right? And then as it gets easy for you, you may take it up a notch, right? That's
Yeah.
exactly how it is here.
That makes a lot of sense. So like, with you being, you're an entrepreneur, I guess I'll say a serial entrepreneur and investor. Like when you were in your younger years, did you like pursue like entrepreneurial like things when you were like, if say like middle school, high school? Was it like just something you knew eventually you're gonna do?
Nah, man, I didn't have a fucking clue what I wanted to do, to be honest,
Yeah.
right? Even out of high school, and it's funny you asked me this question because I had no idea what I wanted to do even out of high school, right?
Yeah.
I was going to go to the military. I was actually I went to all my exams and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. I was going to the military. I was going to the Air Force.
Yeah.
And I don't remember why, but I decided at the last minute, well, let me just try to go to school or something. And that's what I ended up
Yeah.
doing. But I had no idea what I wanted to go to school for. I wound up majoring in finance and, you know, didn't like that. End up switching to technology, and
Yeah.
then the rest was history. But even as I was working, I never thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But then it turns out that I was having a conversation with somebody one day. They were actually a teacher, and they were talking about how uh uh you know they have to make career paths for kids so kids can
Mhm.
help kind of figure out what they want to do or whatever.
It's like
And
counseling. Yeah.
that conversation actually led to my first business, right? My first business, I actually created some software that I actually needed in high school. Remember, I said I had no idea what I wanted to do after high school. Well,
Yeah.
my first business was a software product that kids can take like a series of assessments, and based on those assessments, it would tell you what could be good career paths for you based on your personality and based on, what your strengths were. It would kind of tell you what career could be good career options for you, and also
Okay.
kind of plot out your educational path to that career. That was my first
Wow.
company. That was my first company. I had no plans on doing that. It just
Hmm.
happened as a result of a conversation that I had with a teacher, and then one
Yeah.
thing led to the next. So I never had any plans on being an entrepreneur. I just kind of fell into it almost.
Yeah.
But once I kind of did it, I just
Hmm.
fell in love with it.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
gotta have a passion. You had a passion for it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Because I heard somebody else say you don't have a passion for something, you're not gonna wake up and do it every day. At least for not for too long. Yeah.
Well, for entrepreneurship, you got to have a passion for
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing because the shit is hard, right?
Hmm.
Right. And some days it's super hard.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's all right. So yeah, if you don't
Yeah.
have a passion for it and a work ethic around it, then yeah, it's not gonna be for you.
Yeah. That is true. Because eventually you can't. I guess that you can't fake it for forever. Well.
Forever. You can't fake forever, right?
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
actually one of the things that you should be looking for when you invest in startups, right? You should be
Mhm.
looking for an entrepreneur that don't have no quit in him or her,
Yeah.
right?
That. Yep.
Because I guarantee you there will be situations that's gonna make you want to quit, right? And I guarantee it. And if it's the kind of person that quits easy, you don't want to invest in
Yeah.
that business. You don't want to invest in that
Yeah.
business because as soon as
Yeah.
it
Cause
gets
they cause
hard, that person gonna
they'll
quit.
give up.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. That's right. Cause they're not. Cause some people just like they don't have that. Like you say, they don't have that dog in them.
Yeah,
You
they,
gotta
they
have
don't
that
have
dog in
they don't have that dog in
you.
them. They don't have they don't have
Mm-hmm.
that persistence. They don't have the tenacity.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that
Mm-hmm.
stick to itness. You need that
Yeah.
if you're gonna be an
Yeah.
entrepreneur.
Yep. Cause I've no, I've heard a lot of people say they go years without really positive income, but they just keep going at it. Keep money from friends and family. Taking
Yeah.
loans out, working multiple
Yep.
jobs.
Yep.
Do whatever it takes to keep feeding the dream. Yeah.
And that's what it takes sometimes. I've been there. I've been there. That's what it takes
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. But I can tell you, man, what I do these days is smarter ways to do that though, right? Right. You want people who are dedicated enough where they will do that. They will go without pay. They will struggle
Yeah.
and they will do all those things. You want somebody that's willing and able to do that. But there are also things that you can do to approach those situations in a smarter way, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to sacrifice lunch for your kid going to school because
Hmm.
you got to meet payroll, right? That's some of the things that I work with my entrepreneurs on, smarter ways to
Yeah.
handle some of those situations so that you're not always struggling.
Yeah, but that's good though. Have that set of eyes in it, because sometimes when you in the middle of a situation, you can't. You
You
just
can't
you
see.
kind of that tunnel vision.
Yeah,
That's all you can see. You
yeah,
can't think. You can't see a way out of it. But outside looking in, you may have been here or similar. You can bring your perspective and your ideas and knowledge and thoughts into it and help them, you know, see it a different way. Yeah.
yep, yep, for sure.
Yeah. So, what are some creative ways to get access to quality deal flow without being a part of a VC network?
Yeah, I would say, I talked about one of my favorite ways already, and that's just really establishing relationships with local accelerators or incubators. That's one of my favorite ways to do it. It's
Mhm.
relatively low effort for a high payoff, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of my favorite ways to do it. Some of the other ways would be to get involved with angel syndicates, right? So an angel syndicate is a group of angel investors that invest together on deals, right? So instead of you being a solo angel investor where you have to find all the deals and do all the research and do everything on your own, there are angel syndicates out there where there are groups of people who kind of work together to do all of that, right? And so let's say it's a syndicate that has like 10 people, maybe one person is really plugged into networks and they find all the deals, right? Maybe one person is really good at financial analysis, and so maybe they look at all the books of the companies, right? And so
Mhm.
um, that's also one of the best ways to do this because you can kind of divide the work across the different members of the syndicate.
Mhm.
But not only can you divide the work, you can also divide the investment, right?
Yeah.
If you were a solo angel investor, you know, the checks you have to write to invest are a lot bigger. You know, they could be
Yeah.
25,000, 10, 25, 50,000, or
Mhm.
$100,000 in some cases, right? If you're a
Yeah.
solo angel investor. But if you invest with a community, right, you know, because the community is pooling that money, then
Mhm.
maybe you can cut $1,000 check or $5,000 check to get into that investment, right? So those are
Yeah.
the two biggest advantages of being into a community. You kind of share the work of finding deals and researching the deals, but you
Yeah.
also share the investment workload as well.
Yeah. Like when you come to like when you're in a group like that and they're coming up with a deal, they finalize on the deal. So when it comes to like percentages and things like that, is it like an even percentage across the board? Everybody get a certain percentage, or is it based on how much you put into
It's
that
based on how
deal?
much you put in. It's based on how much you put in. So let's
Okay.
say if my so I actually run an angel investing syndicate myself. I don't call it a
Okay.
syndicate. I call it a collective because it's more community oriented. So I
Yeah.
call it an angel investing collective. So if we're raising, just say, I'm just making up a number, 50
Mhm.
grand, 50 grand for a particular deal, right?
Yeah.
And let's just say 5 people participated in it. Somebody put in 15 and then somebody put in 5. Well, the person that put in 5 grand, right? They're not getting, 25% of that deal, right? They may be getting 5% of
Yeah.
that deal, right? So the
Okay.
the the equity you get is in direct relation in proportion to the investment that you put in.
So basically, the more money you put in, the bigger
The
percentage
more
you'll
money you
get.
put in, the more equity you get.
Okay. I got you. That's good. That's good to know. So like, I want to kind of paint a picture for like people that's maybe be seriously thinking about getting into it. So you wouldn't say you had like your nest egg saved up. You wouldn't just invest everything in one company. Would you spread this out over a group of companies, or how would you do it?
Yeah, so I mean, different people have different philosophies on this, but the research proves this. The research proves that if you kind of spread your investments across multiple companies, that's the best way to do it, right? You need to spread your investment at a minimum across 10 different companies. And so
Okay.
that's the best way to do it. That minimizes your risk, because some companies, they go out of business, right? And so
Mm.
if you invest everything in one company, there's a 50-50 chance that one company is going to go out of business, right? And then your investment is shot. you know
Yeah.
but if you invest in 10 different companies and say 5 of those companies go out of business, you still got 5 left, right? You
Yeah.
still got five
Makes sense.
left, and of those 5, you can have maybe 2 of them that just kill it, right? They knock it out the park, right? So they grow up to be amazingly huge companies, and then you still have 3 companies left that
Yeah.
they did pretty well, right? They didn't kill it, but they did pretty well. They still gave you some
Mm.
money back, right? And so that's why you want to, spread your money around.
It kind of go back to the saying, don't put all your eggs in
All
one
your eggs in
basket
one
thing.
basket. Yeah. It's really a fundamental investment principle, and it can
Hmm.
apply to any type of investment, right? And that's and
I
that
got you.
that's diversification.
Yeah. So when you doing a first time an investor to one of your that come into your collective, um, would you like walk them through like the risk and return, versus startup versus start investing versus like public markets? How would you kind of break that down to them?
Yeah, so my program is different than a lot of programs, because my program is education first, right? And so
Okay.
the
That's
goal
smart.
with the goal of my program is we want people to be educated about angel investing, not only about angel investing in terms of what it is and how to do it, um, but also how it can affect our communities, right? Our Black communities, right? And how
Yes.
angel investing can be used to have a great positive impact in our communities. And so I teach that first. So
Yeah.
in my program, we spend about 4 weeks, just kind of learning about that. And when you're done with that program, you have enough knowledge to go off and angel invest by yourself if you want to, right? You will have that much knowledge, but you don't have to do it by yourself because you would be a part of our collective. You can do it with
Yeah.
us, right?
Yeah.
Doing it with us means, you don't have to go out and find the deals because I provide all the deals because that's what I do for a living anyway, right? And so I provide the deals that I already have access to. So you don't have to go out and find deals if you don't want to. You can if you want to, but you don't have to, right? So
Yeah.
we give you everything you need to first know what angel investing is and how to do it, but we also provide easy access to deals where you can actually practice
Mhm.
what you've just learned.
Yeah. So you kind of go with the like each one, teach one. Yeah. And you just trying to.
Yeah, I've never thought about it that way, but that's exactly it, right? It's reach
Mhm.
one, teach one, and that's really what we're doing.
Yeah. No, it's smart though because you can have the person that's most knowledgeable and the person that's first time doing it, but it's a spirit of we're gonna raise each other up.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And then, people are going to come from different levels of experience and they're going to have different
Mhm.
perspective. And that all
Yeah.
kind of works together to lift up the group, right? Because
Mhm.
let's say if I bring a deal to the table and there's somebody in the group that just happens to have expert in that area, right?
Yeah.
That helps the group get a different perspective on how that deal looks, right? Because this person,
Mhm.
say if it's a medical device company, right? They want to make a new
Yeah.
medical device, and we have
Yeah.
somebody in our group that's a doctor, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That's
And
a different
so
perspective.
right, and so that person may have a different perspective on that medical device than say a lawyer would, right? Or
Yeah. Exactly.
somebody else would, right? And so that's the benefit of doing it kind of as a group because you have these different perspectives that can kind of weigh in on these deals and kind of see how things lay out.
Yeah. That is smart. That's very smart. Because if somebody got a good knowledge background in a certain area, and then they start explaining, they got that firsthand knowledge of actually they've been in the field or however whatever
Exactly.
job they actually done it.
Exactly.
It's a
Yep.
difference between somebody reading something from a book versus somebody actually done a
Actually
thing.
done it. Yep. That's exactly
Hmm.
right. And that's one of the biggest benefits about it's really two big benefits about being a collective. I guess really three. Number one, you kind of get to spread the work, right? You don't got to do all the work yourself. Number two, it allows you to be able to still take advantage of these deals without investing gigantic sums of money, right? You can get you can get started with much smaller investments, like even as low as $1,000, right? But
Yeah.
if you was to do it, if you was to do it by yourself, there's no way
Yeah.
a company is going to accept a $1,000 check, right? They might
Yeah.
accept a $10,000 check, but they ain't going to accept a
Yeah.
$1,000 check from one person, right?
Yeah.
And then, like you said, um, if you have people in that group that have different expertise, you may have somebody with expertise in that area and they can say, you know what, I work in this industry and we need
Mhm.
something like this, right? I would
Yeah.
love to have something like this in that industry. So having that
Yeah.
unique perspective helps.
Yeah. Could it be like, oh, this definitely will make the job better, make it more safer. Maybe
Yep.
that definitely would know. So I know one thing that's been talked about a lot on a lot of podcasts is about like the black dollar, not circulate when we like for is the time the money circulates in our community, like it leaves our
Right.
community like the quickest out of all
Yeah.
different
It's
groups.
like an hour or something crazy like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you look at it, and I look at it in my area here in Memphis, South Haven, a lot of the business are in the communities are not owned by us. Most of them not. The gas stations, a lot of the food places.
Yep.
You go in these places, it's another group that
Right.
owns it.
Right.
So basically you go to buy a burger or wherever it may be, or go buy a soda at the convenience store, it's going straight to another group. It's not
Yeah.
circling back. Like back in the day when I remember, even though I'm younger than you, but I just still remember that you go to the store, it was normally somebody that looked like you that owned the store, ran the store.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not that way anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's not that way anymore, right? I think angel investing could be a way to help try to rebuild some of that back up, right? Because, if you're really looking to how some of these other uh how some of these other cultures operate from a business perspective,
Yeah.
they invest in each other, right? There's a story about I think he's called the Donut King. I think he's Cambodian. I don't remember
Yep.
exactly what part of the world he immigrated from,
Yep.
um, but he opened a donut shop, right? And he had some decent success in his donut shop. And then with other, I think it was Cambodia, but I'm not sure if it was Cambodian. But it was that part of the world. But
Yes.
anyhow, when other immigrants would come into the country, he would teach them how to run a donut shop, and he would also invest in their donut shop, right? And
Get a
so,
percentage.
so over time, this area was dominated by donut shops ran by this particular group of people, right?
Okay.
And it was because this one person learned the craft and continued to invest in entrepreneurs into that business, right? The same thing can be done with angel investing, right? My goal is to train 25,000 new black angel investors in 5 years, right? And
Okay.
so let's imagine if 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 each of these 25,000 people invested in one or two black owned businesses,
Mhm.
right? 20, let's 25,000 times two, 25,000 times three. That's the amount of impact that can have. Not to mention
Yes.
the impact that all those businesses would have on those communities and people working in those businesses, right?
Yes.
And so I see angel investing as a way to kind of kickstart the economic
Mhm.
cycle within our communities
Okay.
because we're
Yeah.
investing in ourselves. And as those investments pay off, we continue investing, right, based on the wealth that we've built. And so that's another way that angel investing can be used. And that's kind of one of my favorite things to talk about
Yeah.
because not only is it a tool to build your individual wealth, it can be used as a tool to build our collective
Community.
wealth.
Yeah, community.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like like some of the famous communities, like the Black Wall Street community.
Yeah.
Different. It was
Yeah.
it was that was just I think one of the more famous ones, but
It was
they were
hundreds.
all over.
It was
Yeah, they were
hundreds
all
all over the
over.
country, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, that was the most talked about one, but it was hundreds of communities like that all over
Yeah.
the country, right? And
Yep.
it was our communities investing in our communities, right?
Yeah.
And so angel investing can represent that same type of philosophy. It's
Yeah.
us investing in people like us.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you're right though, because it's not just if you look at it, okay, you invested in that business, but you think about it also, you invested in families and generations because if that business does good, and then that's gonna impact that family, which that
Yes.
family may have 2 to 6 kids in the family.
Yep.
That's gonna inspire them to eventually one day get into some type of business, and then
Exactly.
it can go on and on. You can really start building something out over time. Yeah.
Plus your family, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that family and everything that's positively impacted by that family, as well as your own family and all the positive things impacted by your family, right? Because
Yeah.
if I invested in your business, Sean, and your business blew up, right, and
Mhm.
you became a
Yeah.
millionaire because of that bit that impacts you and your family, but it
Yeah.
also impacts me and my family because as you became a millionaire, so did I, right?
Yeah.
Because I
We
invested in
all
you.
we all are
We
growing.
all did.
Hmm.
We all are growing, right? And
Yeah.
so now you have legacy money that you can pass down to your kids, and so do I, right? And so that wealth is continues to kind of spread out and continue to impact.
Yeah. That's true. Cause you look at some of these rich families. That's basically what they do within the family. That's why once they get to a certain level, they start having their own family bank, have
Uh,
their own
yeah,
financial team that just works for their family.
right. And that's called the family office, right? And
Yeah.
you're exactly right. So when you get to a certain
Hmm.
level, you create your own family office. The family
Hmm.
office is basically the organization that invests the companies. I mean, the organization that invests the family's money.
Yeah. So it's almost like the family could essentially have their own VC
Yeah, that's exactly right.
fund or yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And
Hmm.
that's how the wealthiest families in the world operate to this day. They use that wealth to continue building more wealth and they just literally stack it.
Then plus, you thought it's not only just the money, but you think about the interest, the compound interest over time. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you think about the money, which is the obvious thing, but you also think about your network and your reach, right? And the impact you can make by
Yep.
them, right? So it just kind of you build this kind of foundational thing, a whole
Mm.
bunch of other benefits just kind of get drawn to.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
and then so and you get to a point to where the opportunity just start to
Yeah.
gravitate towards you, right?
Yeah.
You don't even have
Because
to
you were
look.
like
You don't even have to look
a
for it
magnet.
anymore, right? Yeah, opportunity
Yeah.
just comes to you.
Yeah. I've heard those stories where, I heard these different entrepreneurs talk about how like they get this insider knowledge about invest in this or invest in, buy this stock, buy, this company,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Yeah, because it's all about the network and the pull and the reach. Yeah.
yep.
Hmm.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. But now, yeah, but I love that plan and that mission. 25,000 people over the next,
Five
is it 4
years.
years? Next
Five.
5 years?
5 years. Yep.
So just the impact there is gonna be it's gonna be amazing.
Yep. That's the plan, man. That's the plan. Working towards it
Yep.
every day.
Yes, sir. So we're like, but but like you said, that's really gonna like really contribute to closing the racial and economic gap, for our
Yep.
community.
That's what we're
Yeah,
working
I love that.
towards.
I love that. What trends or emerging sectors in tech do you believe offer the most accessibility and opportunities for new investors today?
That's a really good question, and it's pretty layered. So let me try to break it down a little bit. I don't think there is any industry necessarily that's more accessible than any of the others. But I will say the industries that I'm really liking right now is the med tech industry. So
Okay.
med tech is really the kind of combination of medical technology, just kind of technology, right? So just
Mhm.
imagine you combine, say, a medical device with AI, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just making up this example, right? Let's say you take an old fashioned kind of heart monitor and then somehow you infuse AI into that heart monitor so it does a
Yeah.
lot better job of reading your heartbeats and kind of predicting what could be going on, right? So
Yeah.
that's called med tech. So
That's cool.
med tech is really hot right now. Different areas of technology have reached a point where it really makes sense to start kind of integrating them into traditional medical fields and medical
Mhm.
devices. When those integrations work well, the results can be amazing, right? So whenever you have those type of situations, that makes great opportunities from an investment perspective. So
Uh,
med tech is kind of one of my favorites right now.
yeah, I mean that's definitely something to think about because I mean everybody want to live longer. They want to they want to be healthier. They want to be active
Yeah,
to do things for themselves, their family, their kids, and
yeah.
so I can
And
see
it's
why that would be
and it's not
important.
it's not a lot of technology based innovation in medical care, right?
Hmm.
There's still a lot of old
Yeah.
fashioned stuff in medicine, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
there are devices that were designed 50 years ago that we're still using the exact same kind of device today, right? So
Yeah.
it's an area that's ripe for innovation, and technology is advanced enough that it can kind of easily combine with some of the traditional stuff in medicine and make
Hmm.
completely new and innovative
Yeah.
technologies in medicine.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, I think it's something that definitely needs to be thought about because you got to think about just the wear and tear on nurses and the doctors and just caring for patients and then the
Yeah,
quality of life for the patient while they are, in treatment. So there's
yeah,
definitely a lot of places it could definitely be room for improvement in that space. Just when you
yeah.
just outside looking in.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one of my favorite areas. It's a few out there, but that's one of my favorites right now.
Okay. So what's like, what's next for you for as your company and I know your mission is the 25,000 investors over the next 5 years. Like, like what do you see, the VC company, the Angel Collective, what do you see it going, for its 5, 10 years out?
Yeah, so I'll take them both separately, right? Because one is my profession, that's the venture
Mm-hmm.
capital, and then one is kind of my passion, right? That's the angel investing collective. Where I'm trying to educate
Mm-hmm.
25,000 Black angel investors over the next 5 years, and
Yeah.
so I have different goals for both of them. Um,
Okay.
for the venture capital firm, I just want to continue growing the firm. I want to continue sourcing great startups, and then just continue doing what I'm doing there, right? For the angel investing collective, my goal there is to really start building momentum um, with bringing awareness to angel investing. And so that's my goal there. And that's really what I'm focused on. And so again, for the VC firm, I'm just focused on finding great startups to invest in because that's what venture capitalists do, right? You don't have anything to invest in. If you can't find stuff to invest in, then you're not doing your job. So my focus there is really finding great startups to invest in. Have a global network. Literally, I can pick up the phone in almost any major city in the world and have lunch with somebody, right?
Yeah.
Because I have to cultivate that network because the deals can come from all over, right? And it helps me be multiple places at once, right? Because
Yeah.
people kind of look out for stuff that I like and they may shoot me stuff that I like, right?
Yeah.
So that's my focus there. Continue growing my network so I can continue having access to great deals. And on the VC side, on the angel collective side, my goal is to just continue to bring awareness to this wonderful field of investing to Black folks.
Yeah.
And just help them become educated in how to do this because I think it's one of the most powerful investment tools out there, especially when you consider the effort, right? It actually does not take much effort, right? Once you found a company and did your research, you write your check.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything else, right?
Just kind
So
of wait.
just wait. Unlike if you have a big real estate portfolio, you got to collect rent, every month. You got to maintain the properties. You got to pay taxes every year, property
Yeah.
taxes. You gotta you
Yeah.
gotta fix up your units when people move out. I mean, it takes daily management, right?
Yeah.
And you can generate some cash from that for sure. It
Yeah.
takes effort, right?
But you still gotta spend out a lot
And
too.
you still got to spend out a lot, right? But with angel investing, it is truly passive. It is truly
Yeah.
passive. Once you do your initial research
Mm-hmm.
and you make that investment, you don't have to do anything else at that point. Just sit back and relax. It's 100% passive at that point if you choose to be. And nowhere in the world can you, make an investment and then sit back with your arms folded
Yeah.
and just wait for that investment to multiply by 1,000, right? There's no other place you can do that.
So
And
like,
so,
wow. Now I was gonna ask you like, for us, in your, I guess in your experience, what like, can you kind of give some insight on like from the time you invested to the time you got like, wow, I got a nice return.
yeah,
Like, mm,
yeah. That's a good question. To be clear, angel investing is a long-term proposition, right? This is not something that you do if you need cash right now. It's not something that you do, to meet your monthly bill obligations. This is not
yeah.
that. This is for long-term investing, right? So with angel investing, you make your investment and you may not see any returns. Typical time frame is like 5 to 8 years, right?
Yeah.
So it is long term, um,
Mhm.
but you're not doing anything in that 5 to 8 years. You just kind of because the people running
Yeah.
that company, they're doing all the work, right?
They're doing, yeah,
You're
yeah,
doing all the work, right? And so
yeah.
you're a silent owner in that company, and so
Mhm.
you just sit back and you just let them run the company. And if they're successful, then you're successful.
Yeah. I think that's a win-win,
It
because you
is a
can
win-win.
continue living life, doing your thing, and next thing you know, your life could change.
I would tell you, I'll be honest. I was thinking about this the other day, and no one has ever asked me this, and I don't think I've ever said this out loud until right now. If I had it to do over, right, I would not
Hmm.
have. I don't think I would have started any businesses, right? I just would have done angel investing. I just would have worked my job
Hmm.
and just did angel investing, right? And I
Wow.
think, I think if I would have did that, say when I first started my career, because it
Hmm.
took me a while to get started. It took me 8 years to get through undergrad because I ain't had no money, so I had to keep stopping and going and stopping and going. So it took me eight
Yeah.
years. So I was almost 30 by the time I graduated. I got my first degree and my
Yeah.
first professional job. But if I had start doing angel investing then, right? Think about it. 5, 8 years after that, right? If I had a
Yeah.
licensed portfolio, I could have
Hmm.
been in a situation where I could have walked away from my job right? In my
Yeah.
mid 30s. In my
Yeah.
mid
That's
30s, right? So
true.
if you think about it from that perspective, and people do that, right? There are people that do that. There are people
Mm,
because they have family members in this field or
mm,
for whatever reason, they just kind of learned about this very early in their lives and they
yep.
had an opportunity to start doing this investing very early. You know, these folks don't have to, these folks are 32, 33, 35 years old and they don't have to work anymore, right?
That's it.
They're
Actually,
set, right? And so
yeah.
now
Financially free. Yeah.
they're financially free, right? And so that's what I would do. Like if I could rewind the hands of time from a professional perspective, you know,
Mhm.
that's what I would have did because it's
Wow.
it's it's just that powerful.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
the younger you are when you start, the better, right? Because it is a
Mhm.
long term thing, right? If
Yeah.
you try to start this at 60, you know, it's probably too late at 60, right? I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
but if you start this, the earlier you start, the better you're going to be.
Yeah.
I say that like if you like 25, you got a decent job, right? If you join a really good angel syndicate where
Mhm.
you can write smaller checks, like $1,000 checks, you know,
Yeah.
you can do two of those a year, right?
Yep. Then build it up.
You can do two investments a year. That's 2,000 a year, right? You spending
Yeah.
that on shoes and clothes and bags easily,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Right? You make a couple of $1,000 investment a year, you know, sometimes maybe you make a $5,000 investment, right? Right. And you do that every year for 3 or 4 years, you got
Yeah.
you a nice portfolio. And I guarantee you some of those companies are going to hit it in that portfolio. And then you'll be set.
Yeah, because it's just like the way the numbers play out. It's
Yep.
going basically your numbers gonna come up, so to speak.
It's
Yeah,
gonna
you're
come
gonna
up.
hit bingo. You're gonna hit
Yeah,
bingo.
but again, you
Uh,
got to be smart, right? You can't just be fucking throwing darts at a dartboard, right? That's not gonna work. You got to be smart about
yeah.
it. You got to have, like I said earlier, you got to have a systematic process for finding the startups, evaluating them, and then
Mhm.
deciding whether or not to invest in. So if you are disciplined and smart about how you do that, and
Yep.
you've create yourself a nice portfolio of say 10 to 15 startups over the course of some years, yeah, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be set.
Well, I love that, man. Definitely the Heighten Success family is really gonna build and grow from that. That's some
Yeah,
really great knowledge, man.
yeah,
That's
for
that's
sure,
I
for
love it.
sure.
I love
Yeah,
it. So, man, like I said, I really appreciate you, coming here and giving us this game and really, and getting raising everybody's frequency. So just, getting everybody to the next
I
level.
appreciate it,
Yeah.
man. I like talking about this stuff. Like I
Yeah.
said, I wish I had known about it 20 years ago myself, right?
Yeah. Sure. Me too. I'm
Right,
42
right,
now, so
right.
man, what I learned
Exactly.
about this when I was 22,
Exactly,
so
right. And so we're gonna try to bring awareness to as many folks as we can. And hopefully they can bring awareness to people that they know. And so we're just
mhm.
gonna try to spread it like that.
So what can they follow you? What can they go check out, everything you're doing?
Yeah, so they can follow me. They can find out about what we're doing at the website. It's ajoangels.com.
Okay.
AJO Angels. And then I've also put together like a little startup guide, like a little beginner's guide to angel investing. I can give you the link. Maybe you can put it in the show notes or something.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We love
But
that.
yeah, but they can go there, download the guide, and it's kind of like a little information on how to get started in angel investing, and
Okay.
just some things that you can do to get started or find out more about how to do it.
All right. And so you're on a LinkedIn,
I'm on
Instagram,
LinkedIn.
your platform.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. My name Abdul. Go on LinkedIn. You can connect with that way, or you can hit my website at agileangels.com.
All right. And I know you mentioned about the podcast. What's the name of your podcast? So they can go check you out on your podcast as well.
Yes, yeah. So I'm doing a new podcast, man. So the podcast is called F Day Table, and so
Okay.
and that
I
and
love
that
it.
podcast, man. Yeah, F Day Table. People try to talk me
Yeah.
out of using that name, but I'm like,
Yeah.
that's what it's
I
about. That's what it's about. So that's what I'm gonna call it. And so on that podcast, we talk to people who are all about kind of building their own table versus kind of asking, in some cases, begging for a seat at that table,
yeah,
at their table, right? And
exactly.
so it's about people who
Yep.
are trying to find ways around the system and building their own
Outside the
systems
matrix.
out the matrix, exactly. Instead of
Yeah. I
trying to
got you.
begging to get in the matrix. So we talk to people doing that. And so yeah, that's the
Yeah.
podcast. FD Table on all major platforms. It's a new podcast. So we got a couple episodes booked. But looking to book more.
All right, man. Looking forward to checking it out. I'll be checking it out and subscribing to it and liking it. Yeah, man. Anything else you want to leave the the audience with before we go?
Yeah, I would say first, thanks everybody for listening. I appreciate you, Sean, for having me, man. And then, like I said, if you're interested in learning more about angel investing, Sean will put the startup guide in the show notes. Download that guide, kind
Yeah.
of walk you through some of the stuff I talked about here. Also gives
Yep.
you ways to get in contact with us. So look out for that.
Well, man, we
Cool.
appreciate it, man. I like this.
Thanks.
It's been a, like I say, I've learned so much. All this is new to me, and I know it's gonna be new to a lot of the listeners, and it's really it's gonna elevate everybody to get a chance to hear this episode. And we definitely appreciate you coming up to the show and just blessing us and getting and raising us up to the next level. So,
Appreciate it, man. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I'll see you around.
all right, well, much love, y'all. This the latest and greatest, Heighten Your, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Much love, peace.